Helen, good day to you. So I'm going to run through a slide pack for what I've got myself into. This is my art pack. Now, if you've been watching the last couple of videos, you'll know that I started off with an idea for a top-down Miami Vice like shoot 'em up. Built a framework from a book for a zombie shooter which was in that style. But when I saw this, I really instantaneously knew there's no way to draw a skyscraper from the top down angle and have it look anything good. That I started looking for pictures and trying to find something where I could make that look, and everything that looks good in that style has a fisheye warping effect on it, which really would have just been completely beyond me to even try. So I chose to be quite happy with it, to be quite happy with this and to get on with it. Now that sort of suggests some sort of disquiet, but actually looking at this stuff, I really love this art. Like it's in this sort of style I like to go, that is most definitely a Shoggoth. Not like the adorable Shoggoth that we had previously, though, as I said, I know if you're going to do a top-down style, that might have been a right way to handle it. And I just like this. I don't even know what this quite is, but I like it. And I was expecting a big, horny, pointy red demon for this, and I'm so glad I got that. I don't know why, but it just looks very unique and will stand out in the game. So this is the mock-up she made, and I just instantaneously knew I needed to do a table, sort of like a turn-based game. Like it needed to be turn-based rather than real-time. Partly because I don't like animating. You can see here that we could move. You can move if you look at a lot of turn-based games. They don't actually animate their movement of their units around too much. Now, she's provided me another art pack for the mechas, both the both the shiny one and the damaged one, and the damaged one's meant to be like a possessed enemy mecha as far as I'm using it for. But I kind of feel that's good enough for me to do a prototype from and build a general setup. And the problem though is I had an idea of all the patterns that I was going to use. I had an idea of the architecture of the program. Zombie shoot 'em up from the top down perspective is a tried and tested formula. I genuinely knew where everything was, and this has just put me back into the point of, from a DevOps perspective or from an agile perspective, I've gone from having a list of epics and functions that I was going to add to the existing design, and I've gone straight back to I don't even know if that will work. And I decided I was all right with that, though I'm angry at myself for a couple of reasons, which I'll go through in a second. So I watch YouTube game DevOps, game theory and indie game reviews. I have a huge pet hate, and I almost laugh at anybody where they go, I've made this, it's spent years making this game, and I'm constantly making all these changes, and I make this game, and I made it this way, and it turned out it wasn't very fun. So I made it into this other way of doing it, when that turned out it wasn't very fun. So I made it into this way, and I just laugh. I have a very much a sense that you should make any project like this into a project. It should have an end point, should have an end goal, and if you get to your end goal and it was terrible, just deliver the project and give up and move on and write up a learning lesson. Don't just spend 5 years making the same game I don't understand why you do that. Like I if it got to a year's time and I was still making this and I wasn't dealing with commercial aspects or updates for it, but I was actually making it, I think something's gone wrong. And I also hate that sometimes these people talk about their home lives halfway through and they're sort of trying to project this I'm a gentleman programmer dabbling in the art for amusement and aren't I so great, and then usually you subscribe to them and within a few weeks they've stopped making their game and you just think don't want to do it. So I feel that I'm in danger of doing that by my knee-jerk change, so I'm going to go back a stage and restart my thinking of how I'm going to make this game. I'm going to treat it as a project management exercise. I've gone back to look at inspirations and influences for the game, and in the background I'm quietly coding up a few different objects which I'm probably going to need for it, but trying to get my head around how these things are all going to architect and link up together. So what I want to use as one inspiration is Into the Breach. Love the fact it's no random elements, it's modern chess, attacks are telegraphed, and that's going to play into a lot of the themes that I try and make in the game. But that's got a huge problem in that it's very reliant on a crafted gameplay. There's a whole videos on the game theory of Into the Breach. It's incredibly simple as a game, but you would struggle to make that and make it balanced because the way everything interlocks and interlevers is very much like a game of chess. That being said, it's the only game I really know that captures the feel on kaiju on mechs, and I really like the idea that you're defending a city. Now that brings me to the problem of another pet hate of mine is it's like this game but a clone of it, or this like, and I feel like I need to start to differentiate and make decisions that will change how I'll run this for myself. I need to find new dimensions to add or remove from the game to make it its own unique idea. So the first point is I'm going to steal from other medias. So if you go to in my head, there's a movie series of like Godzilla type where the Earth Defense Force turns up and fights off the enemy Godzilla, usually on this beleaguered city, and every single time it's a different city. Now I contrast that with things like Neon Genesis Evangelion, where it's the same city and there's a whole emotional arc that takes place of protecting the city and the character surviving there. And so I want to sort of maybe move in the direction of you are incentivized to protect the city because it's the same city for each battle. And that was my first way I was going to make it different. I then looked at Neon Genesis Evangelion for ideas. They have all they're strange, the enemies in that. They're called angels. Look it up as an anime. It's a very strange series. And they have strange, interesting weaknesses. Like they're not just moving around blowing stuff up. They have things that very tactical, puzzle-like things of which the mecha have to beat them up on. I've got an idea that because in NGE, the time for the mechs are on a battery timer. Don't ask me to explain. You'd have to watch it to understand because it's a whole subplot going on there. And I thought that was a nice way of turning it around from Into the Breach again, that rather than having combat being about can you outlast the enemy and the enemy flee at the end, I was wondering if I could turn it more into a need to repulse or drive off the enemy before the end of your mechs fall out of power. I also thought, well, I'm going to have a different strategic layer, so I might borrow the idea of sanity mechanics, because that series is all about the characters going a bit nuts, frankly. So this brings me to my game loops and the game theory behind the game. So I'm going to have a core game loop, enemy telegraphs attacks, player moves, and attacks in response. I think I'm going to try and change up into the breach method using ammo, possibly powers for the pilots, and trying to make the enemies much more less of a swarm that's attacking the city, and much more into an individual enemy who is rampaging around doing bad things, and is much more powerful and has much more set weaknesses and strengths that you have to contest and analyse. Tertiary loop, you have to get it done before the time limit, and I was thinking part of that would be a strategic thing of giving you so much information at the start of the battle and to plan, and then let you run it out like a chess game of, can I efficiently get rid of this enemy in the time limit given to me? And part of me thinks that could actually be a real time limit, as in real seconds and real minutes, rather than a turn-based time limit, which would be quite evil, but plays into the concept of this is modern chess, and this is, you have total information, total choice, but you, like in the chess game, you'll be in time to make your choices in a very rapid manner. Final loop would be the management of the city, rebuilding stuff, research, managing pilots, mental states and injuries. And the last bit, I kind of have this idea that I've got a rough idea how the story is going to work, in that having said Neon Genesis Evangelion as an influence, I kind of want to invert some of that a little bit, because I just feel like so much of it is psychobabble. I wanted to make it much more about the inevitability of losing and the end. I want this to be, the game will just grind forwards and destroy your city eventually, and the choices are when you retreat and leave the city and move on to a different one, whether you get the results and the resources out of having defended that for so long. And I want to do this because I've got in my head this anti-hero fable, which much more of a Nietzschean fable, where the choice to be a hero is not the choice to run in guns blazing and kill the monster that is ravaging the city, Polity, and Maiden, who needs to be rescued, but much more the choice to say, this is awful, terrible and broken, and walk away. And I think that would be quite fun, because in a very meta game manner, the choice is always there to turn it off and walk away from the game. The thinking here is maybe the apparent way to win the game is to kill the end boss, but that end boss will be so overpowered that there will be hidden secret methods of avoiding the conflict or winning by other means, is my way of thinking. And particularly in my head is the idea that death is inevitable, life is not, and so choose to live. And also there is always a choice of leaving. So I wanted to sort of make the game and story arc about these ideas of you're being constantly pushed into fighting the enemy, which is borderline not really well explained why you're doing it, and just seems to be taken as a matter of fact. Giant demon space aliens destroying your city, and the end point of the game is coming to terms with that, finding the resources and ability to leave that and move on. So that's fairly cryptic, slightly mad. I'm going to spend the next couple of weeks working on figuring out all the patterns and parts that are going to go into the C++ design, and if it all works out, I'll be probably in a couple of weeks. I've got in my head a time limit of 6 weeks to get my my documentation done, then get some gameplay posted. It takes that long because I'm having to plan all the modelling up. There's no real code that I can steal from anywhere, and if I can, I have to sit down and rethink how I'm going to implement it for this particular design, and hopefully what comes out of this fulfills my design goals, doesn't feel like it's stolen from anywhere, and tells the right story. So, as the starting said, what have I got myself into? Thanks, have a good night, bye.